Hello, Bleacher Report listeners. My name is James Hill. I run the YouTube channel MrBucsNation, where I talk about all things Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Today, we've got a fun live stream here on the Bleacher Report app because today I'm going to be giving my official Tampa Bay Buccaneers 2024 53-man roster predictions. We are getting closer and closer to NFL training camp, not just for the Buccaneers, but for every team throughout the entirety of the NFL. That means there's going to be training camp battles. That means eventually, unfortunately, there are going to be roster cuts as the teams get closer and closer to the regular season. But who is going to make the Bucs 53-man roster? Well, I have thrown my hat into the ring, giving my predictions as to which players will be making the Bucs 53-man roster, in my opinion. You could completely disagree with this, and that would be completely fine as well. That is the joy of having things like this, that everybody can have a different opinion. But we are going to go through position by position. I've got a Google document with all of my predictions, let's say, on another tab here. I've got the Bucs roster pulled up that you guys are looking at right now. Let's go ahead and start off with the quarterback position. We are going to split this up by positions. So we start off with the most important position in the game at quarterback. Now the Buccaneers have four on the roster. You have Zach Annexstad, you have Baker Mayfield, you've got Kyle Trask, you've got John Wolford. I have the Bucs keeping three quarterbacks, and it is going to be Baker Mayfield, Kyle Trask, and John Wolford. No sizes here, really, in my opinion. I mean, you take a look at the quarterback room, and it seems pretty set, right? Mayfield's going to be your starter. Trask is going to be your backup. Wolford is going to be your emergency kind of guy who knows the Liam Cohen system, who can help out Baker Mayfield and Kyle Trask along the way and be a sounding board for both of those guys as well. I feel very confident about, my selections here. And I think that that is going to be what it is. The only thing is that you could say maybe Wolford would be on the practice squad, but he has so many connections to Mayfield and Liam Cohen in the past, I went ahead and gave him a three-man roster spot here. So the Buccaneers carry three quarterbacks in this scenario: Mayfield, Trask, and Wolford. Moving on right below that, you've actually got the running back position. Now, this one is a bit interesting, in my opinion. I think there are some easy predictions that you can make here. Of course, you've got Rachaad White. He's not going where. He is going to be your running back one. I also have Chase Edmonds making this roster, the most far and away the most veteran running back on this roster. He is going to be a good change of pace back. Of course, you're not getting rid of literally recent fourth-round draft pick Bucky Irving as well. So that's three running backs there. Where it gets a bit difficult is that fourth running back spot. You have three guys who are vying for that position. You've got Sean Tucker, running back out of Syracuse, who was with the team last year, and that could be a bit of an interesting situation there. They may look to have him reprise that role, although the offensive coordinator that really liked Sean Tucker last year in Dave Canales is now the head coach over at the Carolina Panthers, so might not make a lot of sense. You got DJ Williams, a bit of a strong power back here for the, a bit of a strong power back potentially here for the Bucs. He's coming in at 225 pounds, only 24 years old. He is a rookie as well. Could be something that may be looked at moving forward. But in my opinion, I gave it to Ramon Jefferson. He's a guy coming out of Kentucky, 5'10", 215 pounds, similar build to Rachaad White, similar build to a bit Chase Edmonds, a little bit bigger than him. But the biggest thing for me is that he went to Kentucky. He does have that deep connection with Liam Cohen. As Liam Cohen was the head coach, it was the offense coordinator, head coach. Can't remember which one, but he was the offensive play caller over at Kentucky for a couple of seasons. Ramon Jefferson was there. So I think that will probably give him an edge over a guy like Sean Tucker and a guy like DJ Williams. Really, you could throw all three of these names into a hat and then pick one out, and it wouldn't be too surprising with me. I went with Ramon Jefferson just because of the connection that he has with Liam Cohen, and he might know the offense pretty well if it is anything similar to that Kentucky offense. So that is it for the running back position. Rachaad White, Chase Edmonds, Bucky Irving, and Ramon Jefferson. We then go all the way down to the wide receiver position. Now, this is another one that is easy. You have Mike Evans, you have Chris Godwin there. You're not getting rid of either one of those guys. Duh, right? But going down the list, you've got McMillan, you've got Trey Palmer. Those guys I also feel pretty good about. You've got 4 receivers at that point. Put Devin Tompkins in there because I think that he still has some availability, but he still has some ability as a returner. I do believe he still will be battling for the team's starting returning job going forward with possibly a guy like Bucky Irving. So we'll have to wait and see on that. After that, that's 6th wide receiver spot, and I do have the Bucs carrying 6. You could throw it to a lot of different guys. You have Cephas Johnson III. You have Cameron Johnson coming in, an undrafted rookie free agent. Latrell Jones, same story. Tanner New, same story as well. Ryan Miller, second-year receiver, has been with the Bucs since last year. Rayleigh Webb, good special teams guy, was with the Patriots and with the Bucs in the past as well. But I gave it to Raheem Jarrett. The second-year wide receiver, third-year wide receiver out of Maryland. The reason I gave that to him was because I take a look at Raheem Jarrett and what he did last year for the Bucs, and I think it just makes a lot of sense. I think that it's a situation where words are hard. It's a situation where essentially he has the most experience out of the group in terms of being a pure wide receiver. He has shown flashed the most ability, and I think offers the most upside going forward at that position. I think he can contribute a little bit on special teams. I think he can be a guy that will be able to, potentially give you some snaps somewhere down the line as well. And I've just got Raheem Jarrett there. So that is who I've got as the 6th wide receiver. So again, to recap, you've got Mike Evans, you've got Chris Godwin, you've got Trey Palmer, Jalen McMillan, Devin Tompkins, and you have also got Raheem Jarrett in that mix as well. Moving on now to the next position here for the Bucs. It's the tight end position. Now, this one was actually a bit trickier than you would think, in my opinion. It was a bit trickier than you would think. Let me explain why. You go to the tight end position. We're going to have to scroll up here. And it seems like it is kind of cut and dry, right? You've got K-Dot in there. I think he's going to be staying on the team. You've got Devin Culp. He's going to be staying on the team. After that, it gets tricky. Payne Durham, the second-year tight end, third-year tight end out of Purdue, draft pick of the Bucs. Keith, 4th-year tight end, recent draft pick of the Bucs. He is a bit of a blocking fullback hybrid type of guy. You've also got Tanner Tuula, who got some praise last year. But again, that was from the previous offensive coordinator who is no longer here on the team. You've also got a veteran in David Wells. So there's a lot of different ways the Bucs could go. And would they carry 4 tight ends is another thing to consider. Maybe instead of 3 quarterbacks, maybe instead of 6 wide receivers. I went with 3 tight ends, and I gave that final tight end spot to Payne Durham. I think that he still offers the most upside. I mean, really, you could also throw maybe a guy like Tanner Tuula in that mix as well. Him and Payne Durham are literally built the exact same. You could also throw Keith in there as well. I think that Keith may be a candidate for the practice squad. I think Tanner Tuula may also be a candidate for the practice squad. David Wells, just haven't really seen enough upside with him, much less so than what you've seen with some of these other guys in Keith, in Tuula, and in Durham as well. I gave it to Durham just because I do think he can be used as a red zone threat, and he has the upside of being a draft pick in recent history, as opposed to some of the other guys that have been out there. Like in Keith, I think he offers more upside than Keith, and he is a draft pick, whereas Tanner Tuula was not, undrafted tight end out of Illinois State. So it is what it is. I got 3 tight ends: Cade Otton, Payne Durham, and Devin Culp. I'm excited about Devin Culp, by the way. Moving on to offensive tackle now is going to be another pretty cut and dry one, I think. Tristan Wirfs is making it. Justin School is making it. Lou Gedeke is making it. Really, the only spot you could have had was what's going to happen with that fourth offensive tackle position. The reports have been that Silas Danzy has been working at offensive tackle at 6'5", 335 pounds, second year tackle out of Virginia Tech. I gave him a roster spot. I think that he can be a backup tackle. He has been used a smidge in practice with the second team offensive line. I think they like him a lot. I like him a lot. I think he's got great size, and I gave him a roster spot here. Again, this is another one that's a bit of a toss-up. I mean, really, the Buccaneers could carry 9 offensive linemen, and it wouldn't be that crazy, in my opinion. I think you could also throw Brandon Walton in here, but I went with Silas Danzy here. I think they like what he offers. Moving on now to offensive guard, as we are getting rocking and rolling here. There's a lot of names that you could throw out there. Brandon Walton is a name to consider. Luke Hadd is also a bit of another name to consider. Lorenz Metz, pretty cool player. He's the German player, 6'9", 310 pounds. But this one is also another one where it's kind of cut and dry. Sua Opeta is making this roster, in my opinion. Cody Mock is obviously making this roster. Elijah Klein, literally recent draft pick, is making this roster as well. And Ben Bredesen is making this roster. I feel like the Bucs are pretty set at guard with those 4 guys: Sua Opeta, Ben Bredesen, Cody Mock, and Elijah Klein. You have 4 interior guys at guard, 4 outside guys at offensive tackle. The only guy that I think could really push for, like, let's say that backup tackle spot is a guy like Brandon Walton. He's been with the team for a few years now. They really like what he offers as a versatile backup offensive lineman. But I feel like the Bucs are just going to give some other guys some chances there. And maybe Walton would be a candidate for the practice squad. Moving on to center. 2 centers, easy. I mean, one of the easiest positions. Graham Barton, you've got Robert Hainsey. I mean, that's just it. That's it, man. They're the only 2 centers on the roster right now. One of the 2 guys is going to be starting. I think it's going to be Graham Barton. Maybe you agree, maybe you disagree, but those are going to be the 2 centers moving forward. It is going to be Graham Barton and Robert Hainsey. So, just to recap on the offensive side of things, for quarterback, I have Baker Mayfield, Kyle Trask, John Wolford. Running back, I have Rashad White, Chase Edmonds, Bucky Irving, and Ramon Jefferson. Jefferson being the, bit of a fluid lock there in terms of that 4th running back spot. Wide receiver, I do have them carrying 6. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Trey Palmer, Jalen McMillan, Devin Tompkins, and Raheem Jarrett. Tight end with 3. I have Cade Otton, Payne Durham, and Devin Culp. Offensive tackle, Tristan Wirfs, Justin School, Luke Gedeke, and Silas Danzy. Offensive guard, I have them carrying 4. Sua Opeta, Ben Bredesen, Cody Mock, and Elijah Klein. And center, I have Graham Barton and Robert Hainsey. I feel very good about these offensive predictions here. You can change some things around at the bottom of the roster, like 4 tight ends instead of 6 wide receivers, 2 quarterbacks instead of, 3. But all in all, with the players selected, I feel very good about that. Moving on to the defensive side of things now, we have, starting off with defensive end. I have the Buccaneers carrying 5, with Vita Vea being the nose tackle for 6 total defensive linemen. But the defensive linemen are as follows. Logan Hall makes this roster, unsurprisingly. Will Golden makes this roster. Kalijah Kancey makes this roster as well. Greg Gaines is in there as well. And finally, I have Mike Green being that 5th guy. So let's talk about the offensive line as a whole, because I feel like you have to, right? And of course, Vita Vea makes it as a nose tackle for 6 defensive linemen. Logan Hall, 2nd-round draft pick, not going anywhere. Kalijah Kancey, 1st-round draft pick, not going anywhere. Will Golston, far and away the most veteran, tenured player, has a very good connection with the organization and just Todd Bowles in general, not going anywhere. After that, you re-signed Greg Gaines this offseason for a reason. I think that he is going to be the backup nose tackle going forward. He is the guy who is the most suited for that at 312 pounds. So he's going to be that guy going forward, in my opinion. And Mike Green kind of has that role of Pat O'Connor, right? Where he is a backup defensive lineman guy who is going to give you some special team snaps here and there. And if you absolutely need him to, he can play some snaps at defensive end as well. I feel very good about that. The defensive line, again, there's not a ton of wiggle room with this. Like maybe you could throw out some surprises, like hey, Judd Culpepper, son of Brad Culpepper, making the roster. Ernest Brown, former LA Ram, making the roster, has a bit of a connection with Liam Cohen there. There's some other interesting names like Eric Banks, CJ Brewer, but I went with Mike Green in this situation. You have Lawal Uguak as well out of TCU. But with Green, that again, that's kind of another toss up. Like I almost threw Ernest Brown in there. I almost threw Eric Banks in there, but I went with Green because he's been with the Bucs for a little while now. So that's the defensive line. Moving on to outside linebacker, this one, is kind of interesting. Not necessarily with the names, but how many outside linebackers do they want to keep is the more interesting thing. We've got Yaya Diaby there. Duh, right? He's not going anywhere. Chris Braswell isn't going anywhere. Second round draft pick as well. Yaya Diaby, former third round draft pick. I've got Joe Trine Shawinka in that mix as well. He's going to be making this roster. Got Anthony Nelson in there as well. I have Randy Gregory in there finally also. What's interesting to me, and this is where like maybe you take away a tight end, or sorry, maybe you take away a quarterback and throw in another outside linebacker. Maybe you take away that sixth wide receiver and throw in an outside linebacker. Because there's a couple of names there where I was like, ooh, feels kind of tough cutting these guys. Jose Ramirez, second year edge rushing linebacker out of Eastern Michigan, and Marquise Watts, third year edge rusher out of Charlotte. Those two guys I could see making the Bucs roster, would be very interesting to pay attention to. And that would be one of those, wiggle room positions where it's like, okay, they could carry 6 outside linebackers if you want them to, because I think Watts is talented. I think Ramirez is talented as well. There's some other guys that maybe, I don't know, like Peterson Jr., Griziak is in there. But ultimately, I feel good about those 5. It's more just a matter of would they carry a 6th? That is a big question because, hey, they could always use the pass rush help. Todd Bowles is a defensive-minded guy. Would he be willing to do that? I don't know. Something to consider there. But I have the 5 here with Diaby, Yaya Diaby, Chris Braswell, Joe Trine Shawinka, Anthony Nelson, and Randy Gregory in that mix. Inside linebacker, this is another one where it's like, okay, you feel good looking at it, but that 4th linebacker spot is interesting. I do have the Bucs carrying 4. Levante David, you have KJ Britt, you have Servassier Dennis. I went with JJ Russell. Now, there's a few guys you could throw into that mix. Kalen DeLoach, linebacker out of Florida State, could be a very strong candidate to make this roster. If the Bucs carry 5 inside linebackers, I think that he's a strong candidate. V. Jones as well has had a bit of a time here with the Bucs. He, I think, could be battling with Kalen DeLoach for a 5th inside linebacker spot. But if they do go with 4, I went with JJ Russell because he literally did have to start some time last year for the Bucs due to all the injuries they had at inside linebacker. I thought he played pretty well. I mean, I like JJ Russell. 6'1", 225 pounds, 4th-year linebacker coming in out of Memphis. Like, hey, he did a fine job when called into the active duty, right? Like, I came away thinking like, okay, JJ, like, obviously I don't think a guy that you want to start 17 games for you or is at that point yet in his career, but is a fine, serviceable backup who is able to make some plays in some intense situations. So shout out JJ Russell. But 4 inside linebackers is another thing too, where it's like maybe you knock off Mike Green, maybe you knock off a Silas Danzy or a Raheem Jarrett or something along those lines and go with another inside linebacker. It's going to be a tougher decision, in my opinion, both outside and inside linebacker, depending on if they want to carry 6 at outside linebacker, depending on if they want to carry 5 at inside linebacker. Pay attention to that because that's going to be some tough decisions there. Now we've got the secondary cornerback. I've got 4. I'll explain in a moment because I know people are going to be like, what are you talking about, dude? So taking a look here at cornerback, I have got Jamel Dean. He isn't going anywhere. You've got Zion McCollum. he isn't going anywhere. He's going to be your cornerback too. I've got Bryce Hall, who, per Greg Auman of Fox Sports, they like him a lot as the third outside cornerback. So I think that just makes a lot of sense going forward. They've got Tavierre Thomas, the recent free agent addition here for the Bucs. I really do think that he could be the starting nickel cornerback going forward. So it's going to be another interesting mix in there as well. We got Edwin in here. James, do you think Servassier Dennis is why the Bucs were okay with Devin White walking? I think it's more so KJ Britt. I'd rather have two quarterbacks and an extra tight end to help Baker. It's fair. Concerned that Devin and Trey are smaller guys, and we need bigger guys to play the third wide receiver. Trey's 6 feet tall, and McMillan's 6'1". So, that's kind of, who you got in that mix. I don't think they're particularly undersized in my. Well, I mean, Tompkins is. I don't think Trey is, and you've also got McMillan there as well. But 4 cornerbacks. So Jamel Dean, Zion McCollum, Bryce Hall, and Tavierre Thomas. Now, I know what people are going to be saying is like, why only 4 cornerbacks? Well, I'm knocking off some interesting names. Keenan Isaac has been with the Bucs for a little bit. Andrew Hayes is an undrafted free agent. Tyreek Thunderberg out of Appalachian State, just a heck of a fun name. I have the Bucs carrying 5 safeties, and Josh Hayes is one of them. He has cornerback and safety versatility there. That is one reason. You take a look at that safety position as well. If we can go all the way back down here, 5 safeties: Antoine Winfield Jr., Jordan Whitehead, Tyke Smith, who is listed as a safety, Christian Izien, and Josh Hayes. Now, I could easily throw Kayvon Merriweather in that mix as well instead of like a Josh Hayes. But the reason I only have 4 cornerbacks: Christian Izien played nickel cornerback last year. Tyke Smith is going to be a nickel cornerback going forward. Antoine Winfield Jr. played nickel cornerback in the past as well. By the way, shout out Rashad Wisdom, safety out of UTSA is another name also. But that's why I only have 4 cornerbacks, because you have Smith, Tyke Smith, you've got Christian Izien, and you've got Josh Hayes, who can all play nickel cornerback as well. So that's why I only went with 4 pure cornerbacks, because the Bucs really like playing their safeties at cornerback, which is what I expect them doing moving forward as well. Finally, folks, we're going to end this off with special teams kicker. It's going to be Chase McLaughlin. Not really any surprises with that. Let me see if I can find the young man. Hold on just a moment. Oh, there's Jake Camarda. Here we are. Chase McLaughlin. He's literally the only kicker on the roster right now. That's not changing. Punter, it's going to be Jake Camarda. That makes a lot of sense. Well, long snapper, I mean, you have 2 options here. You have Evan Deckers out of Duke, and you've got Zach Triner. I'm going to go with Zach Triner. I think that is, the fair option. I've talked about Zach Triner in the past. I think he'll be the long snapper again moving forward. And that's it. That's my 53-man roster prediction, folks. Again, to recap: quarterback, Baker Mayfield, Kyle Trask, John Wolford. 3 quarterbacks. Running backs, 4, Rashad White, Chase Edmonds, Bucky Irving, and Ramon Jefferson. Wide receivers, 6, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Trey Palmer, Jalen McMillan, Devin Tompkins, and Raheem Jarrett. Tight end, 3, Cade Otton, Payne Durham, and Devin Colt. Offensive tackle, 4, Tristan Wirfs, Justin School, Luke Gedeke, and Silas Danzy. Offensive guard, 4, Sua Opeta, Ben Bredesen, Cody Mock, and Elijah Klein. Center, 2, Graham Barton, Robert Hainsey. Defensive line, 6, defensive end, 5, Logan Hall, Will Golston, Kalijah Cansey, Greg Gaines, and Mike Green. Nose tackle, 1, so 6 defensive linemen total, Vita Vea. Outside linebacker, 5, Yaya Diaby, Chris Braswell, Jotron Shawinka, Anthony Nelson, and Randy Gregory. Inside linebacker, 4, Levante David, KJ Britt, Servassier Dennis, and JJ Russell. Cornerback, 4, Jamel Dean, Zion McCollum, Bryce Hall, and Tavierre Thomas. Safety, 5, Antoine Winfield Jr., Jordan Whitehead, Tyke Smith, Christian Izien, and Josh Hayes. Kicker, 1, Chase McLaughlin, punter 1, Jake Camarda, and long snapper 1, Zach Triner. I feel very good about these predictions. I didn't throw too many crazy, super duper crazy surprises in there. Could certainly happen, right? You never know. But I feel very good about that list. I really do, guys. I think that is a very fair list here going forward. And yeah, I feel very, very solid in my predictions. But what do you guys think? Let me know your thoughts and opinions about these predictions down in the comments or in the chat. I would love to hear it. Again, my name is James Hill, or on the YouTube channel MrBucsNation, where we talk about all things Tampa Bay Buccaneers. If you guys love talking about the Bucs or the NFL, you can find all of that here on the Bleacher Report app. By the way, not just the NFL, but the MLB, the NBA, and every other sport in between. You can find all of that here on the Bleacher Report app. It's a beautiful thing. Check it out. Stay for a little while and enjoy all the sports, guys. But anyway, guys, thanks so much for watching this live stream. Hope you all enjoyed. As always, folks, I'll see you all in the next video or the next live stream. But until then, and as always, guys, again, my name is James Hill. See you all soon, and go Bucs.